Please state your name.
Rachael.
What is your major, and why did you choose it?
My major is animal biology, and I chose it because I like biology, but I didn't want to be a biological sciences major. And the only other choice that looked like I might be interested in it was animal biology.
What do you want to do with this major? Where do you want to go from here?
Vet school is the main target, but I could either decide I don't want to go to vet school, or I could not get in. So I decided that it'd be also a good choice for research or conservation efforts. So it's a pretty flexible major.
What do you like about your major and like about Davis?
What I like about my major is that it's very open. They let you decide what you want to study and basically how you want to study it. There are some guidelines that they want you to have, basic ground rules so that when you graduate, you have, basic knowledge that is expected of you. But overall, you can just study what branch of science you want, and they are very helpful with that. What I love about Davis is how open the community feels without being large. It doesn't feel like a UCLA or UC Berkeley type system, but it's also very very communal. So you get that social experience without feeling like you're stuck in a city.
Is there anything about your major or about Davis that you don't like? Are there any classes that are particularly difficult or useless or hard to digest?
What I don't feel comfortable about my major is that in some areas it's a little too open. They're not very specific on what they want you to do. So even though you feel like you're free to explore what you want, you're not entirely sure what they expect of you to graduate. And that could be a problem for especially vet students who have to focus on one thing, but they're not entirely sure if that will correlate with what the major expects of you. I'm still discovering physics' usefulness. So even though I felt like the structure of the physics class was stupid and useless and I didn't learn anything from the labs, the basics core knowledge of the class is actually turning out to be pretty useful, especially in terms of like OChem and evolution and stuff like that.
Can you tell me about any STEM resources that you've used, whether it's advising or tutoring or advice in your major or where you're going to go after college?
Mostly it's been an online resource if I need to look up what good paths I can take for this major or what the job openings might be when I graduate. It's mostly been about after college, not necessarily during college. So it's been a really good resource for like looking up, if I get this degree, what are the odds of me getting the job I want versus, if I need to look for something else to supplement that. So it's been a good resource for that. First undergrad is getting into vet school. That's what I'm focusing right now. So up until then, it'll be getting in those requirements and filling out those forms and making sure I have what I need to complete vet school and stuff like that. After vet school, I'm hoping to work under a vet clinic and learn what I need to learn about the trade and about the accompanying legal and social parts of it. Then hopefully I'll be able to maybe rent a building and start my own practice.
Have you had any difficulties in your preparation for getting all the requirements done for vet school?
Yes. There's a lot to keep track of. It's not as bad as med school in that there's a lot of things you have to do, but for vet school it's a lot of different things you have to do. So if you need the experience, you need the letters of recommendation, you need the different tests, you need these different classes to take, especially since vet school is more about animals versus just people. You need to have that base of the different trees of life and what the vertebrates versus invertebrates, and there's a lot of different pieces of knowledge that you need to get into vet school versus just humans.
Do you feel like the system for your major, or that's been set up in Davis for people who want to go to vet school, is it useful in helping you get through this, or do you feel like there are improvements that need to be made?
It's very useful if you know where to look. There's a lot of advising and a lot of resources available for people who want to go into vet school. They tell you what vet schools look for, how to best get in, what other people have done to improve their ability to get in. But I feel like it might be a little under advertised. There's a lot of resources out there that people might not know about because they're not projected at the population. I feel if they made a little bit more effort to get those out there, it would help a lot more.
Have you had any research experience during your time here at UC Davis?
Not so far, but I'm just starting to research in a lab over at the vet school, and I'm hoping that that'll give me a big boost in my experience that I need for vet school, and not just for vet school, but also the rest of my life, how to do certain things and just boost my resume and stuff like that.
Can you tell us how you got that lab experience?
It was through my animal biology classes. The professor who was teaching it was involved in research I thought was very interesting. And since he's my professor, I have a connection with him that I can use to ask him about it and go into his lab and explore it. And even though I didn't work in his lab, he referenced me to some other colleagues he thought were researching things I might be interested in. And I emailed them all, and I got a feel for what they researched by looking at their websites, by talking to them back and forth, and finally one doctor decided that I was a good fit for him, and I felt like his research was very interesting and very in the field of what I want to do. And now we're going to start. I'm going to start working in his lab, and we'll see how it goes.
If you had the opportunity to give some advice to an incoming student who is interested in a STEM major, what advice might you give them?
I would tell them to keep an eye on what they want to do with the rest of their life, because with a lot of STEM majors, it feels like it's very specific because there's a lot of work involved and there's a lot of effort you have to put into it. So knowing what you want to do and knowing which path you want to take might help you a lot in discerning how much work you have to take, where exactly you want to go, and it might help people from getting confused in all the math and the science and the different things that they feel like they might be interested in versus things that they know they have to do. It's a fine balance between pushing yourself to succeed and enjoying your college experience and getting the most out of it. If you push too hard, you're burnt out too quickly and you don't enjoy what college has to offer, because it's the only time in your life where you're going to get this experience. And it's the time you have to explore, things that you didn't get to learn in high school, and you might not get to explore, in your professional career. But it's also not a good idea to, just use college for the social and entertainment experiences, especially now that society is becoming more technological and we're getting more and more advances in the scientific field. It's really important that students get that background they need in order to be successful in the workplace and in their research and whatever it is they want to do. And with those STEM classes, it's pretty important that students are learning what they need to learn and not necessarily those extras that people might think might be included. Maybe focus a little more on the knowledge and the critical thinking, especially the critical thinking. Don't memorize, don't just commit it all to memory and then, we have to, make sure students learn this. It should be more about they should know how to seek the knowledge, how to gain the knowledge versus here's all the knowledge, we're just shoving it at you and hoping you retain most of it for when you graduate. So I think the STEM classes should be especially focused on how students learn and making sure it's effective and efficient versus, even though what the students learn is very important, I think how the students learn is even more important. a little bit of an issue I find with STEM classes, STEM majors, STEM students is that a lot of people start their majors, they're excited about what they're studying, they seem to love it until they hit a wall. Usually it's a hard class, it might be something they find that's not very interesting, and they're discouraged. They think they get this mentality that their major might not be as interesting or as relevant as what they might have thought it was. And that's kind of an issue, especially when people who are advising them don't really let them know that it's just one class. It's one branch of what you want to do. You can specialize. You can go into a different area of what you want to study. It's not the end of the world, but people aren't really told that. It's not open information that even if you're not doing well in this one class, or even if you don't find this one class interesting, it doesn't mean that you have to switch majors or you have to get out of the STEM system. And related to that, another issue that I found is that in order to avoid this problem, or something along the line, a lot of advising people will discourage you from taking harder, more challenging classes because either they're afraid that you'll get discouraged, which a lot of people do, which it's not to steer them away from the harder classes is not the answer. Students should be encouraged to push their boundaries. They should be encouraged to find out, what is tough for them, what they can do, what they're interested in, and to steer them away from these classes to try to block them off altogether kind of coddles them. It doesn't really show them what they're capable of. It doesn't really show them what's out there, and it kind of hurts the STEM majors. So instead of telling people, oh, maybe you should take, the lower level of this class, or oh, maybe you should decide to, do this class instead, just because they don't feel you can do it, or they don't feel that you will enjoy it, isn't helping anyone. If students are encouraged to push their boundaries and to explore new areas of their major, then it might help them, find that they're even more interested in their major than they were before, or it might help them decide that maybe, they should be in a different branch. But shutting them off completely from those harder classes is not going to keep them from being discouraged. It's just going to shut them off from being fully aware of what they want to do with their education.
How cohesive and well planned out do you feel your 4-year experience at Davis has been or will be?
I feel like it's a fine balance. They give you a list of the classes you need to take in order to graduate, and that gives you a sense of direction, and it shows you what they're expecting of you to know when you get out into the professional field. Because I'm basing this on the assumption that they're not going to give you junk classes that you won't use. I don't know if that's true for every major, but for my major so far, it's been pretty true. I haven't encountered any classes that I know I won't need for what I want to study. But it's also kind of like a blinders on a horse. You're not really, you're so focused on getting that degree, you're so focused on fulfilling those major requirements that maybe there's not enough time to explore, other branches of like, if I wanted to take, human anatomy classes, even though it's not part of my animal biology major, it'd still be interesting to learn, and it might even, be relevant to what I want to do, considering, biology is a huge field, and I feel like that cohesiveness might be a little too cohesive, but it's also helpful in giving students direction and helping them prepare